Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to Fight or Flight. We're here with another episode, and today I want to talk to you guys about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. But first, I just wanted to say today's video is going to be a little different. I'm obviously shooting the video from my truck. I'm not in the studio today. I just came back from a massage. I'm feeling rather relaxed, and I have a lot of info fresh on the tip of my mind where I want to share it with you guys. And frankly, my first video with hypoglycemia and its relation to anxiety, that one was kind of boring. I wasn't really comfortable in front of the camera. I was constantly looking at my notes. All of this was brand new to me. And today I just wanted to kind of shoot from the hip and give you guys what I know on PTSD. So post-traumatic stress disorder can also come in a couple other flavors like CPTSD, is essentially a survivor will go through an event in their life that is deemed traumatic. We might think of a PTSD survivor as maybe a active duty military personnel, a combat veteran, maybe an EMT, first responder, a law enforcement officer, a sexual assault victim, an abuse victim as a child. It could be a number of things. But they go through a traumatic and stressful event, and the brain at that very moment causes the body to enter into fight or flight or freeze mode. So there is a cascade of hormones and chemicals released. There's cortisol, there's adrenaline, things that are released that make you either fight, flight, or freeze, and can bring you to a state of extreme panic and fear. And essentially, a PTSD survivor is going to relive that situation over and over for sometimes years. And each time they relive it, it's oftentimes through nightmares, it could be through flashbacks, it could be through different associations they've formed, angry outbursts they might have. Each time they relive it, it's equally detrimental to them and equally terrifying as though the first time that they actually experienced that traumatic event. So first I want to talk about the brain a little bit. The brain is neuroplastic. I was treated by the Amen Clinics, Dr. Jennifer Love, and she explained to me, and she's an amazing doctor, by the way, she explained to me that neurons that fire together wire together. So your brain is keeping score. It's constantly monitoring. It's like a hard drive, and things store in your brain, and they can store for years and manifest and come out in different ways. So essentially, I'm going to give an example. Maybe somebody was caught in a house fire, right? And in that house fire, their home was burning, animals, maybe they almost burnt themselves, almost burnt alive, and they survived that situation, but it was terrifying. And 3 years later, they go to a camping trip, and they're sitting around a campfire. And when they sit around that campfire, the survivor, the PTSD survivor, smells the campfire, and that smell triggers their brain to take them back into that very moment when they were in that house fire, and they experience and relive that situation all over again, because those neurons that fired together wired together. You could have a panic attack while wearing an orange shirt, and every time you wear an orange shirt after that, you may not realize it, but you're anxious or you have a panic attack. So the brain will store this information, and you'll often experience it numerous times over and over again over a period of time due to those associations. Now, people with PTSD, oftentimes they're going to have major anxiety. They're going to have sleep disturbances. They might have outburst, anger outburst. They might have gosh, avoidance behaviors where maybe they avoid a lot of people, places, things that might remind them of the situation or trigger them of the situation that they survived. Um, all of those are common with PTSD sufferers. With adolescents and children, it's a little different. They actually portray their symptoms and their PTSD manifestations through their play. So they might act out these things while they're playing, or they might draw it on paper. And it doesn't typically come out the same as an adult. But I'm going to briefly explain a form of PTSD that I went through and some of the treatment I received. Back in 2020, I was having an extreme panic attack, right? And that panic attack occurred in a moment, just like any other moment, but that panic attack occurred, and I, for some reason, chose at that very moment that I wanted to check my blood sugar. It's not something I would typically do, but I did it. My hands were sweaty, my heart was racing, I checked my blood sugar, and it came up low. So for months, actually a good 2 years after, every time my hands would sweat, I thought that I was going to have a panic attack, and I thought that my blood sugar was low. And it was because of the associations my brain formed. Those neurons ended up firing together, they wired together, and as a result, every time I would have sweaty, clammy hands, my heart rate would speed up, I would think I was going to have a panic attack, and then I would check my blood sugar. And it became an obsessive thing. So it's kind of like PTSD mixed with a little bit of health anxiety. I sought out treatment by a wonderful therapist in El Cajon, California, by the name of Maria Miares, and she treated me with EMDR. So first I want to say one of the most effective in different studies and in different things I've read, one of the most effective forms of treatment for a PTSD survivor is often exposure therapy. However, it can be really hard to get a PTSD survivor to participate in exposure therapy because of the blocks in the human mind. Basically, the human mind wants to avoid what's unsafe. And exposure therapy requires that you confront your traumatic event head on. And a lot of people don't want to relive that. So with EMDR, it was a form of it for me. And again, no judgments here, no disrespect. There are people who have been through major extreme situations that are much more traumatic than what I went through. But in my situation, she basically had this wand, right? And she would take the wand and she would wave it around, and she would ask me to explain my situation. And what I would do when I explained it and how I felt is I would look off in a certain area, maybe up and to the left in my case, at about the 10 o'clock range if there was a clock in front of me. So as I'm explaining my story, I'm hitting that 10 o'clock range with my eyes, and she says, that's where the data is stored in your brain. You're looking up and to the left, which means there's a disturbance. That's where the data is stored. She said, basically, your brain, PTSD is almost like a brain injury. So you have scar tissue built up on your brain. And she said, what we're going to do is we're going to hit that area, which she did. And she said, we're going to stop there. She said, I'm going to have you think about the situation, and I'm going to wave the wand back and forth really fast, and you're going to follow it with your eyes. And what it's going to do is it's going to break up that scar tissue. And I thought, that's interesting. But I did it, took myself back into the moment, felt a little bit of feelings of panic and fear. And she started waving the wand back and forth, and I was following it with my eyes. And then she said, we're going to replace that with something pleasant. And she said, so we're going to go back to this area of your brain. She did the same thing. But this time I had to think about something that was pleasant to me, something to replace it with. And I didn't notice anything on my first treatment or my fifth, but after weekly treatments for about 3 months, I started to notice tremendous healing. There's other forms of treatment, of course. There's medications. A lot of times doctors might use selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, also known as SSRI. It might be things like Celexa, Paxil, Prozac, different medications like that, which can help calm the body and lessen the number of disturbances that you might experience. Benzodiazepines, which would then blunt that response, that physiological response, if you happen to have a flashback. The anxiety and things you feel may not be nearly as bad. Sleep aids are often prescribed because most PTSD sufferers and survivors suffer from lack of sleep because of nightmares and not being able to relax and shut their brain down. But all of these things are great. I would consult with your doctor and your therapist and figure out which one is best for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm here to give advice based on my personal journey. I'm not a medical doctor. So you're always going to want to discuss any advice I give, any decisions you make with your doctor. But I have a special treat for you guys. Later on this week, we have an episode that's going to be airing, and I am going to have a law enforcement officer on my channel, and he's pretty well known in the Utah area. This particular officer, his name is Josh De Los Santos, and he was involved in 2 separate situations within about a year's time where he stopped a vehicle in oncoming traffic on the freeway using tactical maneuvers that is often taught in the police academy or to law enforcement officers to intercept a vehicle without harming themselves or causing minimal harm to themselves and those around them, and saving the lives of others. So he's going to be on the channel. He's going to talk about what he experienced in his particular situation, how he experienced PTSD, how it affected him, how he sought out treatment, and how he was able to bounce back. And I'm blessed to have him on the channel. I'm excited to see him. He actually baptized me. He's a personal friend of mine. And so I have a very close emotional tie with him. Love the guy to death. He's a humble guy. In my opinion, he's a hero. He's not going to tell you he is. He's just going to tell you he did his job. But I'm excited to hear from him, and I'm excited to have you guys tune in and hear from him and hear his insight on how he dealt with things and what he went through. So until then, you guys all hang in there. We got plenty of episodes lined up. Feel free to comment if you have anything to say about PTSD in general. If you want to talk, if you need some support, if you want to reach out, feel free to shoot us an email. But again, until then, hang in there. I love you guys. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the likes, the follows. If you like the content, please, like and subscribe. It helps out the channel. It helps out with YouTube algorithms and sees that our videos are viewed a bit more. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Have a wonderful day.